today's book review, I definitely had to get myself in a cozy space because I just know that I kind of want to be here for a while. So if this is the kind of video that you need to save for when you're ready, do that. Also, I was supposed to review The Prize by Julie Garwood today. So I know I'm throwing a loop in here because I'm gonna review this instead, The Love Hypothesis. So if you need to wait and hold off and go grab this and read it first, because I'm going to dive into everything that I love about this book. And I promise you, this is not the book that you want to watch the spoilers on. And I'm the kind of person where I do not like suspense. It is not fun for me. I don't get anything out of it. So there are times where I just kind of like need to know what's going on. But I loved, there was something about this book where it was so good, you don't need to do that, if that makes sense. Like, this book starts off immediately. There's no build up, immediately hits the ground running. So I would hold off on watching this until you get yourself a copy of this book or on your Kindle. I'll link it down below for you, and you read this. If you've already read this, I'm going to dive into all of my thoughts on this. And the reason why I wanted to go ahead and push this up is because I just finished reading it yesterday. I started it yesterday, I finished it yesterday, and it's fresh in my mind, and I had to do this. So the backstory on this book and what you kind of need to know about me, if you haven't been watching my previous book reviews, I'm 40, not that that honestly matters, but I have always preferred like a historical romance novel. I love just that timepiece, that era. And so for me, reading contemporary is not my favorite. There have been several books that I have read that are modern, fantasy, contemporary that I have loved, like The Court of Thorns, which I'll eventually review. Like stuff like Twilight and Hunger Games and The Selection, like those series I have loved and I've read and loved. But typically stuff like this, these little like one-offs, random books, I turn away because it's just not my thing. Micah, my daughter, she has her own YouTube channel. I'll link it down below. She put this on my desk the other day. She was like, read this. Now, this is important for me to explain all this because this should be telling on how good this book is. I'm already going to rate it for you. 10 out of 5 stars. 100,000 million stars out of 5 stars. Like, it is... I screamed several times reading this. Also, if like you're going for a walk or whatever, this can kind of be like a podcast because you know, you don't really have to like see what I'm doing because I'm not doing anything here. But I digress. So Micah puts this on my desk, and the thing is that Micah and I, while a lot of you guys call her my mini-me, a lot of people actually do this, we are in fact very different in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to movies and books. We are polar opposites. I mean, we might as well be not only in different planets, but in different galaxies. She likes to feel things, she likes to cry, she likes the emotions. I do not. I don't have fun in that element. I like happy things, funny things. And so we always have this battle of like trying to watch a movie together because we're just most likely not going to pick the same things. And the same thing with books. So when she comes and she's excited about a book and she tries to talk to me about it, you know, it's kind of hard to like, I guess, connect in a way because we have different styles. Like, there's no way she will read a historical romance, at least not yet. I told her that I said I'm gonna wait for that day when you're going to be 30, 40s and you're gonna be calling me, probably wanting my books. And the reason why she does this is because she thinks that there's one little caveat that's going to attract me to it. She already knows I'm gonna turn a blind eye. The thing about this book, which is called The Love Hypothesis, and if you look at the characters, there's something very special about them that is unique to writing. So if you've never heard of fanfic, this is a term for when authors will write a book specifically based off of either a real person, like a celebrity, or a celebrity who played a certain role in a certain movie, TV show, etc. There's millions of fanfics out there about Jacob Black from Twilight, Edward Cullen, or Robert Pattinson himself. Instead of Robert Pattinson playing Edward Cullen, sometimes a fanfic is more about him as himself, and sometimes it's about like the role, if that makes sense. So this is about Kylo Ren, who is played by Adam Driver. Did I say that right or backwards? Adam Driver plays Kylo Ren in Star Wars. And then we have Daisy, who plays Rey Skywalker in Star Wars. Now, the one thing is that I'm pretty positive this is about Kylo Ren and Rey, but I'm kind of wondering if this is about Adam Driver instead, because, and I just asked Micah, but she says it's a fanfic about Kylo Ren and Rey, but in the book, she actually names the guy Adam. So I'm wondering, is this just about Adam Driver and then the girl is just some random girl? Because her name is Olive, something very special about this book in the end. So we'll table that for now, but just know that this is a fanfic about either Adam Driver or Kylo Ren. Doesn't matter because physically it's the same person. She writes Adam with the same exact attributes. With like the scar, which he has in Star Wars. So that must be Kylo Ren. But anyways, she writes him physically to be exactly like Adam Driver or whatever. So that's what makes this exciting, and that's why Micah ultimately put this on my desk, because I am, ladies, if I could marry anybody, I'm gonna take this off. If I could marry any person on this earth, when I tell you it would be Kylo Ren. Not Ben Solo. Don't get it twisted if you watch Star Wars. Maybe Adam Driver. Because are they one and the same? But Kylo Ren, I've never, like, the moment I first saw him on the screen, I gasped. And he's my celebrity crush, like, you know. So anyways, so Micah's thinking that if she puts this on my desk that I'm going to read it. Now, it sat at my desk for a while, for over a week. And I remember thinking, oh, I don't want to hurt her feelings because I'm not gonna read this. Like, I just don't give a crap. I'd rather hightail it back to, 1507, where they don't use utensils while they eat, and dogs are runneth throughout the house eating bones off the table. Like, I'm more into that. So then I really started reading this, and I found out immediately that it hits the ground running, and what was really interesting about this book is that they're basically like scientists, and the fact that this author wrote so much about this book involving science and biology, and I was still entertained. Olive is a grad student. She ultimately, wants to cure pancreatic cancer because it's what took her mother's life. And within a week, basically, of like being diagnosed and to her passing, kind of has an interaction with Adam, who is his name in the book. And she can't really see him because she's wearing expired contacts and she's been crying, so her eyes are burning. but she's in the bathroom. She didn't know where she had gone. She hadn't realized that she went into like a man's bathroom essentially, or a lab bathroom like in his class, but she has no idea. She doesn't know who this guy is. She can't see him. And this conversation is just so profound, and it really is like the reason for everything that this book is about. They talk, and again, this whole time she can't see him. Her eyes are blurry. She can't really see. She can tell, she hears his voice. She likes his voice. She can tell he's really tall, and which Adam Driver is very tall. And that's the prologue. Chapter 1 starts off basically 2 years later. She's been a grad student at this point at Stanford. She obviously got accepted into the program, and there is a professor, a doctor, you know, they get their PhD or whatever, and his name is Dr. Adam Carlson, and he is just known. He is known to be the ass. Dr. Adam Ass Carlson, I think, is like what he's known as, and he's just extremely hard on his students, and he's just very cut and dry, doesn't smile, doesn't do anything. He's just has that reputation on campus. And she's not necessarily like integrated with him. Her program is kind of different from like what he's doing, but she clearly knows of him. He is like the school's genius. She dates this guy, this random guy named Jeremy, and she doesn't end up liking him. And then she finds out that her best friend actually does like him, but her best friend, being the good friend that she is, like absolutely refuses to date him. And so to convince her friend that she's like, you can date him, like I went on one date with him, I didn't like him, like and her friend's just not buying it. She's like, no, I can't do that. And her friend is very important to her because she lost her mother. She has nobody. And so her two friends, Anne and Malcolm, are like very important to her. She would die for them, essentially. And that's the other thing I really love. I love how Olive's character was written, and I love how Adam's character was written individually and then together. Like, you got so much of like who they are, and I really like that because I want to get to know them. Because essentially when you read a book, you kind of, in a way, at least for me, I want to become the character. I want to be Olive, like, you know. So the more details that you get, the more into the world you submerge in, and I personally love that. So Anne is very important to her. So she tells her, oh, I'm going on a date with this guy, to try to make her think like, okay, Jeremy's safe, I can date him. But she doesn't go on a date because she doesn't have a date. She goes to the lab to work late at night when Anne comes walking in, and she's like, oh my god, Anne's gonna find out I'm lying. Then she's really gonna think I'm into Jeremy, but I'm not. And guess who happens to be there late at night? And she just runs up to him and kisses him, knowing that Anne is about to walk by and see them. And Adam decides to be her fake boyfriend. But he tells her, okay, well, what's in it for me is that Stanford, and he gets very frank. And which is a big deal because, you know, according to his reputation, the fact that he's even doing this for her, and the fact that he's even giving her personal information, is very telling. Because let's say this is written off of Kylo Ren as a fanfic, she's also writing not only on appearance, but in a way their personality as those characters in the actual Star Wars movies. And Kylo Ren was very unbending, you know. He just tough, cold exterior, and, you know, that's how she wrote him. But not with Olive, he's not. Which is exactly how Kylo Ren was in Star Wars with Rey. You know, whenever it came to her in Star Wars, his guard went down. He had a weakness because he was in love with her. He tells her, you know what, if like they see me have a girlfriend, they might think that I'm not gonna move and just like go somewhere. So then she kind of course comes up with the rules. This in a way kind of reminds me of what's that movie where she writes the letters? It's on Netflix. It's so cute and adorable. It's where she writes the letters to all the guys that she likes. And one of the guys, they strike a deal to like fake date so she doesn't feel like a total loser or whatever. But anyways, so it kind of reminds me of that in a way. And so they set these ground rules, and she's like, you know, we should probably do stuff. Like, people should probably like see us together. Now that we have the overall concept out of the way, I just have to talk about the rest of this book. Just anything and everything, because I could not put this book down. It was so easy to read. I was so excited for like what the next words were going to be, because everything was so good. You would think that it would kind of feel like she spent so much time away from Adam, but almost all of this is her interacting with Adam. Other professors around different schools, trying to see if she can get in essentially to that program so that she can use their labs, because that's what she's lacking. She's lacking the funds, the space, the things that she needs to cure pancreatic cancer. And she gets a response back from a guy named Tom Benton. You should have seen my reaction when I found out how long he's been in love with her. This man has been in love with her since he saw her in that bathroom floor crying. And mind you, he saw her, you know, and she really didn't see him. And so when there's 2 years, right? Because then the book starts off 2 years when she essentially runs into him in the lab in the middle of the night and kisses him. But in those 2 years, he has been pining for her. That is a long time to hold a candle. He's definitely written as very like work-driven recluse in a way. There were so many lines in this book that just took my breath away from him. The little Easter eggs that he's giving her in a way. I mean, I have to literally reread it again, because now that I know how long he's been in love with her, it's gonna be a whole different book. Like, and I love books like that where you're like, oh my gosh, and you just reread them again with a completely different perspective. I also really liked how he had a quiet confidence about him. I think that's something that like I'm just personally attracted to. I'm not at all surprised that I ended up loving this book and loving Adam Carlson, because hello, like, you know, she just did a really great job of writing Kylo Ren or Adam Driver as Adam Carlson in this. She did note that he like wore black a lot. So again, I think this is pointing to Kylo Ren for sure. And if you look at her, she looks like Rey. So I think Micah's right. I think this is Kylo Ren and Rey. What gets me is that this whole time he is in love with her, and he is so patient and has that quiet confidence. But when it comes to her, he just will do anything and everything for her. Like, for example, you know, during their weekly Starbucks meetup so that people can see them together and believe that they're a real couple, which, by the way, people freaked out about. Like, they started treating Olive differently when they realized she was his girlfriend. I mean, she was getting all the kudos and the help because he is a big deal. He's it. So you becoming the girlfriend, people are not going to mess with you. So she was definitely seeing the perks of this. And so he's meeting her at Starbucks, and he's in a very sulky mood, his usual mood, you know, and she orders him a chamomile tea, and he's like, I hate tea. And she's like, yeah, well, you're gonna have it. She had a very cute, that's the thing, I don't know quite if it's Rey Skywalker for me. Maybe it was, but she had a very, and yeah, maybe she was very much written like Rey Skywalker, because she was very like confident and unapologetically herself. And she loved all things sweet. So every time they would walk into Starbucks, she would get some type of new drink. It would be something like the unicorn frappuccino or the pumpkin spice. And so he was just always like, black coffee. And so she asked him like what his favorite color was. And he says, he's like, I never thought about it. And he's like, okay, I guess black. That was his answer. So he's like, well, what's your favorite color? And she's like, oh, and she's like, okay, I guess white, which is like their uniform in Star Wars. So I'm wondering if that's like a connection to the fanfic, because you have to remember, like, when this is written, when things are written as a fanfic, that's a very big deal, because that's ultimately who's going to be the target audience. Like, obviously anyone can read this. You don't have to have watched Star Wars at all to read this book. You will still love it, I promise you. But because it is a fanfic, that's going to be your biggest target audience. And all of those little Easter eggs are just, you eat them up. And because that's the purpose of a fanfic, is that sometimes you just kind of wish you either want more out of the characters you loved on screen, or you want what you didn't get on screen, which essentially, right, is like, that's what Star Wars did to us with Kylo Ren and Rey. Like, they killed him. Like, Star Wars just has no sympathy for... Anyways, so that's why fanfics are so important, because it is that fan's opportunity to get more of the characters that they loved. Though it was like, it's probably not a big deal, but y'all, I've never wanted to not be single more in my life than when I read this book. And if you know me, you know that, like, I love my independence. I've been single actually for a really long time. And this book makes me want a man right now. Just, like, you hear? Like, ooh, this is gonna be the all review here, because I went to bed crying. True story. I went to bed crying, praying to God, and I literally pointed to the side of the bed. I said, why? Why is the side of this bed empty? Oh, so while Tom's there, this is what I was trying to allude to before. While Tom is there, he's giving a speech, and it's like a packed stadium, or like a packed, one of those huge auditorium classroom kind of things. And it's so packed that she has to sit in Adam's lap. And I was there for all of that. Like, yes, I want to be sitting in Adam's lap as well, so I am insanely jealous of Olive. The way that she writes this whole moment between them, it wasn't just sitting on his lap. Like, the way that she writes about how his body just like turns into her. He's very attuned and aware of her being on his lap. And they're supposed to be fake dating, but everything about their body language says real. Let me see if I can find it, because I have to read this. So I found one of my favorite lines in here. This is in the auditorium when Tom is doing his talk at the podium thing. Or do you maybe want to fake breakup early? He didn't reply for a second. Then, just as Dr. Moss took the mic to thank Tom and ask the audience for questions, she heard him say, "No, I don't want to fake breakup." Because it's not fake, Olive. It's not fake, it's real. He's in love with you. The other thing that I really loved about their chemistry is how bubbly she is. She's so full of flavors, and he's vanilla. But he loves all her flavors. And that's the thing. Like, when a guy who's completely different from someone, but he absolutely adores exactly how she is. That's it. That's the end for me. That's all she wrote. Backtrack to the chamomile tea. He drinks it. He hates it and drinks it anyways. Then she convinces him to go get the flu shot, and he doesn't want it. He's like, no, I don't want it. She's like, oh my God, you don't like needles. Guess what? He does it for her. He does everything for her. Now you have to remember that in her mind, she is not at all connected the dots. She has no idea, one, that he's the same guy from the bathroom scene in the very beginning. She has, two, no idea that Dr. Adam Carlson is in love with her. No clue. But what she does know now is that she's in love with him. And she's like, oh my God, what has happened? And she's afraid that if she tells him, that he's going to think that she conjured this whole scheme up just to get with him. That's what she's afraid of, you know, because he's a catch. Is right behind her and hears the whole thing. But Adam thinks that she's talking about someone else. He can't possibly, he's been in love with her for so long. He's pined for her for so long. He's seen her, you know, in those 2 years, he is very acutely aware of her, and she's really not of him. And so he's had all this time to let that grow and grow every time he has seen her. So Adam thinks that she's talking about someone else. And even during this, I'm imagining that his heart is breaking, because this book was really written from Olive's perspective. There were no really Adam's point of views at all. Which man, I would love to get Adam's point of view. Like if she wrote that, like Stephanie Myers did with Twilight, where she wrote from Edward's point of view. He has always gotten offers to be taken away from Stanford and go to other places, Harvard, yeah, the whole shebang, and he's never once accepted it. But he decides, you know what, let me go to Harvard. Gee, wonder why he would want to go to Harvard. Because there's no way that that man is going to be away from her. That's how much he loves her. Because think about it, he's this big guy, he could go anywhere. He decided not to go anywhere because he loves Stanford. He loved what he was doing. But if Olive's gonna be gone, so is he. Tom just burst her bubble entirely. And she's like, what? He's like, I didn't accept you into this program because of your pathetic research, which is crap. Like, you're crap. He's like, I just knew that you were gonna basically fuck me. Sorry, like that's what he says. He's like, I knew you were gonna sleep with me, and just like how you've been sleeping with Adam, like that's how you've gotten to the top at Stanford. It's because you've been sleeping with Adam. You've been him, and you're gonna do the same basically with me. And I'm like, cool with that. And if you do really good, you know, like I'll get you places. And she's like, ew, gross. No, get the hell off of me. And she, you know, runs away, goes back to the hotel room that she's sharing with Adam, and she's crushed. She thinks she is crap. She thinks that, you know, maybe Adam has been nice to her and telling her that she's great and she's smart, and maybe she's not, you know, and that her research is all stupid. And so she's very upset. And as soon as Adam comes in after his speech is done, he realizes immediately, he's like, what's wrong? What happened? Tell me. And she's like, no, nothing. He's like, tell me what happened. And she basically says, well, someone said that my speech wasn't very good. And he's like, he's ready to go. He's like, who? Again, I'm used to the historical romance, so reading their scene was very interesting to me because there was a lot of talking going on. Like, it was just, there was a whole ass conversation. But when I tell you, I was not mad about it at all. And the scene where she tells him that she's like, you've touched me here before, and she shows him where his hands were before over her shirt, and then he recreates it again, but this time under the shirt. He pulls the shirt off of her. There's a whole paragraph on that. And I liked it. It is not for the weak. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It is not for the weak. So then the next day, you know, he's got all these meetings with Harvard. And she's realizing I can't be with him because, or I have to break off our little deal because I'm not going to Harvard. I'm not going to be around Tom. But Tom's his best friend, and she's like, he's never going to believe me. And she didn't want to put him in that spot. So he comes back to the hotel and she basically like ends things with him. Then she breaks down. This is still in Boston. This is still happening in Boston. They're there for a couple of days. She breaks down with her friends and she tells them what happened. All to find out that Tom, his whole conversation with her and hitting on her and calling her all those names and saying all those crappy things to her was still being recorded. She had been recording herself like on her laptop or her, I think it was her laptop. I don't know if it was her laptop or her phone, but she'd been recording the whole thing. She forgot to end the recording that she was going to give to her advisor. Not dressed for it. A very nice restaurant where Adam is having an interview with all of these Harvard people in this panel. Tom being there. She shows up and Adam takes one look at her and he knows like something's wrong and he doesn't care. He gets up from this interview and he immediately goes to her and he's like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And Tom, of course, Tom has to come on the scene because he's got to do damage control because he knows that she's there to out him. This is what the recording said. Neither Adam nor Tom had seen Olive take out her phone or press play. They both struggled for a second, confused. They'd clearly heard the words but were unsure where they came from until the recording started. Olive, you don't think I accepted you into my lab because you're good, do you? A girl like you, who figured out so early in her academic career that being well-known successful scholars is how to get ahead? You, Adam, didn't you? We both know you're going to me for the same reason. What the? Tom took a step forward, hand extended to grab the phone from Olive. He didn't get far because Adam pushed him away with a palm on his chest, making him stumble several steps back. He still wasn't looking at Tom, and not at Olive either. He was staring down at her phone, something dark and dangerous and frighteningly still in his expression. She should have probably been scared. Maybe she was a little. The recording. You're telling me that you thought your pitiful abstract was selected for a talk because of its quality and scientific importance? Someone here has a very high opinion of herself, considering that her research is useless and derivative and that she can barely put 2 words without stuttering like an idiot. It was him, Adam whispered. His voice was low, barely a whisper, deceptively calm, his eyes unreadable. It was Tom, the reason you were crying. Olive could only nod. In the background, Tom's recorded voice droned on, talking about how mediocre she was, how Adam would never believe her, and calling her names. This is ridiculous. Tom was coming closer again, reattempting to take the phone away. I'm not sure what this bitch's problem is, but she's clearly... Adam exploded so fast she didn't even see him move. One moment he stood in front of her, and the next he was pinning Tom against the wall. I'm going to kill you, he gritted out, more like a growl. If you say another word about the woman I love, if you look at her, if you even think about her, I'm going to fucking kill you. Get your woman. Get your damn woman. Alright, we've changed the backdrop, so we might kind of go in and out just because I took Loki for a walk and I was thinking about, you know, kind of what I had said, and then I realized what I had not said. So I wanted to kind of include some of those moments in here. And so my favorite moments between the two together, I mean, there was just so many. It was just, honestly, in any time that they interacted together, there was something. There was chemistry, there was fireworks. It was never bland. And again, this was reading it from a perspective that for the most of the book, you don't realize that he's had it for her, an affinity for her since the very beginning. So I can't wait to dive into this book a second time and reread it from a different lens. So I love that. But at the top of my head, I loved the auditorium when she's sitting on his lap and the way he responds to her. I love when, like, little things, when she went to, actually the rumor started flying that they were dating, because Anne told one person who told another person who told another person, and then it spread like wildfire, and she was like, oh my god, now he's gonna think I'm a psycho, I just randomly kissed him, and he's gonna think I'm making up all these rumors. So she goes to him while he's in the middle of the class, and he stops everything that he's doing. He never gets angry with her. It's honestly so pure, the way that he loves her, the way that he was written, and it really is, in a way, so like Kylo Ren. Loki's chewing on its bone. So I loved that. So the auditorium, when she interrupts him. I also really liked when the end scene, when he is sitting in this fancy dinner with a really big interview with like Harvard important people in this panel, and he doesn't miss a beat. He sees her, he sees how distraught she is, and it doesn't matter. She comes first in his mind, which is very interesting because here's this guy who's a genius and a scholar, and he's got an ego, but not like cocky, you know, kind of like a humbled ego. Like, he, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't like toot his own horn. He's just very confident, and he knows his craft so well, and he falls for this unicorn frappuccino. Like, that is what olive is, and it's just like, it's just honestly amazing. And then of course their hookup intimate scene together, that was quite a ride for me, because as I've explained, I'm used to reading a certain style of books. They're like all behind me, and because they're sharing a hotel room and they have a double bed in this scenario, you know, and they sleep in his bed, and she's like, then the next morning she's like, oh, I should get in my bed, and he's like, no. Like, this man just... And so because we spend so much of the book really seeing him have a wall, because at this point we know why he's agreed to do this. It has nothing to do with the perks. Yeah, I'm sure it's helping that he has a girlfriend, makes him look grounded, he's gonna get his funds, but he did this to be near her. Like, he wants her to be his real girlfriend. He honestly treated her like a real one. And so, but because he thinks she's not into him at all, he's very guarded. So when the walls start crumbling, even before she kind of starts finding out, he starts kind of like showing his cards to her before they sleep together. And so then when they have slept together, it's little lines like this where he goes, you're so perfect, you're driving me insane. Like, when you start to get lines like that from a character whose point of view isn't being written from, I just want to know what's going on in this man's mind. So when we get lines like that from a guy who just, you know, he's got this mask. So to see him, to see what his weakness is, which is her, oh my god, just why am I not Olive is the question. I forgot about this line. Ladies, I wish I could read page 273 to you. I really wish I could. I don't even know if it's like allowed. Now, how I'm going to end this whole review, which I talked about the importance of this being a fanfic and why and all that. So I'm here to tell you guys that this has officially been picked up to become a movie. And it's unworldly. Like, however, I have very mixed feelings about this. Very, very mixed. Because I am myself a fan of fanfic. And the reality is, and again, I'm just speaking like in my own opinion, I don't know if these things will happen, but I highly doubt that Adam Driver and Daisy, well, I forget what her last name is, I doubt that they themselves are going to be acting in this movie. So for me, that just that cancels anything out, because the entire purpose of this entire book is Kylo Ren and Rey. Now, granted, they're not named Kylo Ren and Rey because Star Wars wouldn't allow it, but Star Wars doesn't have a hold on them two acting in any other movies together. Like, they don't own Adam Driver and Daisy, but I don't think that the two will sign up to do this movie together. If they do, we don't have a problem, and I'm going to be like mouth on the floor. I'm going to be so shook. But I don't think that's gonna happen. And so for me, that is just very like a level of massive disappointment, because then the movie's going to cater to people who don't know that this is a fanfic. They don't know that this is about Kylo Ren and Rey. And they're going to love it, and that's great and all. But I think that it should cater to the fans, the audience that this is originally kind of written for. That may sound, I don't know if that sounds weird, like why would it matter? But if you understand fanfic, it does matter. Now, I get it. There's a million fanfics about like Harry Styles and like the whole One Direction thing and like all of that, and the chances of them getting Harry Styles to play, like, which they did actually. I think the first fanfic movie was After. I don't know if you guys know that movie, but it hit theaters and it's called After, and it was actually one of the first biggest like fanfics to ever blow up, and it was about Harry Styles. So, but when they did the movie, it wasn't Harry Styles that played the guy that was in After. And I'm trying to wrap my head around that concept, because it's like, this isn't like a normal book, you know, where you kind of like just describe someone to look like Kylo Ren, or to look like someone that maybe looks like Ryan Reynolds or who the hell ever. This was literally portrayed as this person, and to have to get somebody else to act it doesn't make any sense, and it will, in my opinion, it's a hard one. Fanfics are hard. Now, am I happy that we are going to get it on the big screen? I am. Like, I would like, am I suggesting like all or nothing? Well, kinda, but here we are. These are very big actors, and I don't know if that's something, you know, that they're gonna do. So I feel like the people who don't really care about fanfics and don't really have that deep attachment to Kylo Ren and Rey. You know, when you're a Star Wars junkie and you just, or any characters that you love, when they get written into a different style of book, like, that's what you kind of expect to see. So I do feel very like, who are they gonna get to play Adam in this? Because at the end of the day, I'm referring to Kylo Ren, but Kylo Ren is Adam Driver, and Adam Driver himself has a very, very unique look to him. There's no one else that looks like Adam Driver. And you know, there's a million Ryan Reynolds, there's a million, like, you know what I'm saying? But Adam Driver has very unique characteristics. She even wrote his nose the way that it was, his lips the way that it is. And so it's like, it's a very, you're in a situation where like you just take what you can get, because you know chances are that actor isn't gonna do the fanfic about himself. You know, it's almost like, even if it were to be so big that he would make maybe the most money he's ever made to, like, let's say do this, I still think that the actors like this would turn the roles down, because it's almost in a way, I wouldn't say egotistical, but it's just, is it awkward? Is it weird? You know, I really don't know. So my mind is very like jumbled about how I feel about fanfics kind of going to the big screen. In the end, yeah, I'm happy we're getting something. I'm happy we're getting like a real live version of it, and I would love to see like how this compares to what I've read in my mind. So I'm happy to report this is becoming a movie. It's official. It is official. And we'll see. We'll see who ends up playing Adam. Who on this earth could possibly look like this man? Like, I don't even know. But we'll see. So anyways, that's it. That's the book review. I hope you guys enjoyed my little talk, and I feel like Olive's character, 5 out of 5 stars. Adam's character, 5 out of 5. Perfection. Perfection all the way through. The other characters, her friends, all the little itty bitty pieces and stories within it. You know, the fight that they had when he fails a student that she knows, and little things like that, and yeah. So there's just, man, I just keep thinking back to the day Micah just walked right in here and placed this on my desk, and it's good. So like I said, I'll link it down below, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Next Friday will be a review of Julie Garwood, The Prize. So we're gonna take it back to historical romance, and I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about that book because it's probably my number 1, number 2 Julie Garwood favorite. So that's it. I'll see you guys there.